everyone. This is the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show. I want to thank you guys so much for joining us. My name is Vanita Lambert, and I'm the host of this show. And I have a very special guest. His name is Gary Goodridge. He's a realtor with Caldwell Banker Realty Company. And I want to thank him for coming on the show today. And he's going to share some very important information. And first, I thought he was a banker. So I gave out some some incorrect information last week regarding he would be able to clarify a lot of information on loans and things like that. So he is not a banker, he is a realtor, but he deals with banks and, start the mortgage process. Is that correct for a lot of people that are looking for homes? Because you got to have the money before you can buy the home. Exactly, right? Okay. All right, Gary, welcome to the show. And if you want to tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Again, my name is Gary Goodridge, and I'm originally from Boston. I'm native Bostonian. And about 32 years ago, I came to New Haven. And I was only supposed to be here 6 months. Mm-hmm. And I was working in this club as a marketing manager running a promotion. And this tall lady walked by, and she caught my eye. And we've been married for 30 years ever since. 6 months has turned into over 30 years. I have 3 beautiful daughters and 2 great son-in-laws.
That's awesome. That's a great story. And you still have the Boston accent. I heard the marketing, the chair. I love that. So that's a wonderful reason to be here.
It's a great reason to be here.
It is. You have 3 daughters?
3 grown, beautiful daughters and 2 great son-in-laws.
That is. Are they in Connecticut as well?
No,
or?
Everyone is out of state.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my oldest is in L.A. She's married out there. My middle daughter is married also. She's in the D.C. area. And then my youngest is in Dallas, Texas.
Okay, so the first one is in L.A. with all the snow?
She's right in, she's not with the snow, she just hears about the snow.
Oh, okay. Nice.
That's up in the mountains, from what I understand.
Oh, okay. So how long have you been with Caldwell Banker Realty Company?
I've been with Caldwell Banker for almost 3 years. Mm-hmm. The way I got into Caldwell Banker is my wife was actually a real estate agent.
Okay.
About 10 years ago, for about 10, 12 years ago. And she had always said, Gary, you should get into real estate. And I kind of poo-pooed it, but then eventually about 3, 4 years ago, I said, why not? And so I've been in it ever since, and it has absolutely taken off.
I know it has. I almost got into it. I actually took the insurance classes, and I took the realtor classes, and I said, whichever state test I pass first, that's my direction. That's what I should do. So I passed Medicare life insurance state test, and that's the route that I went.
Yeah, it's been, especially last year, it was really a great year for me. I was inducted into the International Sterling Society, which is the top 16% real estate Caldwell Banker agents in the world.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That sounds very nice. So I am interested, and can you share a little bit with our audience what you do know about loans or getting, loans for folks that ordinarily would not be able to get loans or unorthodox loans.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example of what I mean. I had, she's my sister friend on the show last week, and you already told me that you watched the show. Her name is Beatrice, and so she is renting, and the reason she's renting is because she did not qualify for a loan, even though, she, her and her husband, they have a great salary, they pay their bills on time and everything, but her debt to income ratio was too low because she has 2 student loans, which she said, she talked about it the week before on this show. So what can a person like that do to get a loan? I mean, is it just impossible that they can never do it, or?
Well, even before we talk about loan, let's go back. What a real estate agent actually does, they'll navigate you through the process from the beginning to end. And the first start in the process is getting pre-approved.
Okay.
Now, as an agent, we have many referrals that we can refer them to as far as lenders.
Okay.
Now, when she went to a lender, what they do, they look at the debt-to-income ratio, they look at her credit. And they'll adjust as far as what type of loan product she might be eligible for. She might be even eligible for down payment assistance. So it's really the lender that they work with. If it's a good lender, they should be able to find her some type of product or tell her what she needs to do to be eligible to get into a certain type of loan. One of the most popular loans is what they call an F loan, where the credit and the debt income is a lot lower, so they can possibly qualify for that, as opposed to, let's say, a conventional loan, where the requirements are a lot more strict.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what lender she was working with or what type of products, but I would start with an FHA loan, because that way they'll be able to get into, hopefully, they'll be able to get approved for that a lot easier than maybe a conventional, which you might be looking into. There are also other lenders out there, and again, this is where a good real estate agent will give you advice on.
Okay.
Because they're looking at the market. They have clients, they're looking to get approved.
Right.
And so some of them have different types of qualifications. And so we try to refer them to lenders that will be a lot more lenient as far as their qualifications on loans.
Okay.
So the key is getting a good real estate agent, because they will give you those referrals as far as what type of lender that might get you actually pre-approved, which is the first start in finding that home.
So as a real estate agency, a good real estate agency like yourself, I'm sorry, the first thing you would do is probably sit down with the client or prospect and do a full fact finder.
Yes.
You get all the information. Have they previously owned, and what type of house they're looking for, and all those things.
The first thing we ask them is why. Why
they want to buy a house?
Why they want to buy a house.
Oh, okay.
People have different reasons.
Yeah, you're right.
Some people,
I never thought about that.
Yeah, some people just want to, they've been renting for X amount of time, and now it's time for them to start owning. They've decided. They might be getting married. They might have kids. They might be relocating from a different area. So we talk to them as to the why. And then once we find out why, then we'll then refer them to, okay, the first step is getting pre-approved, which is what we talked about.
Okay.
And then we'll talk to them about their preferences as far as where they'd like to live, what type of house they're interested in.
Okay.
And then we'll start looking for houses for them and start sending them houses. But it all starts with the pre-approval, because that will determine how much of a house they can actually buy. And then we'll then show them houses that they fit that criteria.
Okay. All right. So in order to do that, in order to find out, what type of house they qualify for, what is that based on? Is it based on 50% of their salary? What is that based on?
Well, again, it depends on their qualifications. There are some lenders.
Qualifications, what do you mean?
Well, it's based on their credit.
Okay, their credit.
Credit scores
okay.
is extremely important, and also their debt to income. But as I said, there are some lenders that are very strict, and they want a very high credit score, because the higher the score, the lower the rate.
How do you know which creditor to refer them to?
Well,
I mean, if you sit down with them and you talk to them, you find out why they want to buy a home. Do you ask them financial questions, how much they make, and
we'll ask
all of
them
that?
right. We'll ask them general questions
Right.
about how much they make. We'll ask them about their credit scores, and then from that, we'll then direct them to that lender that most best fit their situation.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Because in the case of Beatrice, obviously that didn't happen, right? In the case of Beatrice,
Right.
because with a great salary and all your bills are paid on time for years and years, but you happen to have two large student loans, which student loans have the highest interest rates. I mean, they're like 8, 9, 10%.
Yeah.
And so that stopped her from getting her loan. So obviously the lender that she went to could have been one of those conventional strict lenders and not, somebody that's looking at her story more so than her financials.
Right. And it's important to look at the story.
Oh, yeah.
Not only that, is that even though you might not be qualified to buy a loan now, you should be given steps as far as what to do in the next 3, 6, a year, so that you will be in that position to actually buy a home.
Okay.
So she should have direction as far as what she needs to do to qualify, and not just you can't qualify and that's it. So it's really important. And again, it goes back to the agent who knows those kind of lenders who will help them and walk them through those steps.
Yeah, you got to tell them exactly what to do. I mean, it's pretty much the same, same scenario when I sit down with folks. If there are certain parameters that they need to meet before I would even offer them insurance. One of the questions I always ask to determine that is, how much are you able to save on a monthly basis?
Yep.
And if they're, right there and not saving anything, as soon as an emergency comes up, you're gonna let the insurance go and you're gonna lose money. So I pull out a budget sheet and just start, going over things like that. Okay.
Yeah, it's important, especially, as I said, when you get that first step with the lender. Because even though, let's say, congratulations, you're qualified, they'll give you an X amount of dollars, whether it's 200, 300, 500,000 that you're approved for. What is important for them to let you know, and I've seen it where the pre-approval letters do not have it on there, is what the monthly payment is going to be. Because you have other expenses, you have food expenses, okay? You have other ancillary expenses that might not have been taken into account when you applied for that loan, but exist. So it's important to find out what the monthly payments are, because some buyers are not given that information as far as what the monthly payment is. They'll tell them, okay, this is how much you've been approved for, and then they'll go running out, and we'll take them out and look for homes, and all of a sudden, when they apply for the loan, all of a sudden they're surprised at this big number of what they're going to actually have to pay for a monthly payment. So they need to know up front, in general, what that monthly payment should be.
Absolutely. I think that's the most important thing.
Exactly.
And that's where, you pull out your budget sheet and you I would guess it would be somewhere either equal to or less than what they're paying for rent.
Exactly.
In most cases. But there are other things to consider, like the taxes and things like that. But even with all of that considered, I've been a homeowner forever. I rented 1 year of my life. Me and my, at the time, boyfriend, we moved out and we got an efficiency together.
Yep.
Okay, and we lived there 1 year. And the reason we moved out is because we moved right next door. It was at Seabreeze Condominiums. This is back in like 1981 when Seabreeze Condominiums was beautiful. Now it is not. But anyway, we found out that a 1-bedroom directly next door from us was less than what we were paying for rent.
Yeah.
So we bought the 1-bedroom condominium, and then we stayed there 5 or 6 years, and we, bought our house in West Haven, and that's my whole story.
Right.
I don't like change. I stay in one spot.
Well, what you got to remember, and I tell buyers this all the time who are just getting into the market, who are renting. It's not just the rental income, the rental payments. The monthly payments you're paying for mortgage. It's the tax benefits. When you're just paying rent, you're just paying rent.
Yeah, you're just paying somebody else's bills. Yeah.
Right.
And they're getting a tax write-off and not you. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even though your mortgage payment might be a little higher than your rental payment is, you can't deduct any, there's no tax deduction on rental payments.
Yeah.
It's all a monthly payment.
Exactly. You got to own something to write it off. You got to be paying taxes
Exactly.
on it.
Not only that, but you're building up equity. over 5, 10, 20 years.
Okay.
We have people that are renting 5, 10, 20 years. There's absolutely no equity buildup. There's no tax benefits.
Right. But it all depends on, like you said, what the client wants. And some people just don't want the responsibility. They don't want to mow the lawn. They don't want to plow the snow and whatever. So
Right.
it depends on your situation.
It does.
If you don't, if you don't want to buy.
Even if they don't want to do the maintenance. That's why we have condos. That's why we have townhouses.
That's right.
Okay, they're not leaving my desk. Okay, we have
Good point.
we have options for them
Yep.
because obviously with a townhouse, you don't have to worry about that.
Exactly.
There's an association that takes care of the trash, that takes care of the landscaping.
But then there's another, part to that. If you buy a condominium, then you have common charges.
You do have common charges.
And you have assessments.
And you have special assessments also.
Yes, you do.
That can.
So those are things that, I'm sure you make all of your clients aware of in advance if they buy, something like that. A
Yes.
townhouse or a condominium. So you need to add that to the rent, and you also need to let them know that can go up at any time. Just like rent.
Just like rent.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is huge.
It is huge. And sometimes people who get it, and I do talk to my clients about that because condominiums are a little less than, let's say, single-family homes. So it's attractive. But then you have to take into consideration the dues.
Yep.
The condo dues.
Yep.
Extremely important. And they're overlooked.
They
And
are.
that mortgage company will take those into consideration, and then all of a sudden you find out that you're paying just as much for, let's say, a condo or a townhouse as you would be paying for a single-family home.
Exactly.
And they might be better off with a single-family home as opposed to a townhouse, based on the monthly payments being about the same.
Exactly. Talk to us a little bit. Are you familiar with any type of special loans that folks can get if they're looking for a house? Like, I don't know, first-time buyers. Are there grants out there for people to take advantage of that you know of for first-time homeowners or just anybody?
Well, there's a particular program that Connecticut through CHAFA has offered called the Time to Own program.
Oh, okay.
It's a phenomenal program. It's a down payment assistance program. And it pays up, depending on your qualifications and where you're actually buying the house, it will pay up to $50,000 towards down payment. And the key thing about it is that it's actually forgivable if you stay in that home for 10 years.
Okay, so we need to explain that slowly. So there is a
There's
program
a program
out there. Is it a grant or is it a loan?
It's a forgivable loan if you stay in the house for 10
how long?
years.
For 10 years? So that sounds like a 10-year grant.
Right, exactly, in the sense that you don't have to pay it back.
Okay.
Now, that's the good news. The bad news right now is that we're still waiting for additional funding because they've used up all the funding, CHAFA has. As a matter of fact, in February, I was invited by the governor's office to speak on the Time to Own program on regards to his press conference that he had. And so I love the program. It's an absolutely great program because you do have buyers that they've been working, the income is good, their credit is good, but they don't have a down payment. They're living month to month.
And it's called Time to Own. So here's the thing with our community that I noticed is that we lack the information. Like you said, they're already out of money. Who was the first one to get the information and who used up all the funds? Is it a program in just like New Haven County or is it Connecticut?
No, it's statewide.
It's statewide, okay. So who are the first people to hear about this? And what are some of the towns? Is this information in the inner city? So that's what this platform is all about. Getting information into areas that don't ordinarily get their information or the last one to hear about it. And by that time, the money's used up or they're left out.
Well, they will hear from it from a really good agent, and they'll also hear, when it first came out, it came out last June.
Okay. Last June.
It
Wow.
it initially came out, was rolled out last June. Became very popular. They ran out of money. And then they funded it some money, but again, there was some advertising about it, but it was mainly from the agents telling their buyers, hey, there's this new program coming out.
Okay.
All right, so that's, and then there were other,
Well, wait a minute. Let me just back up here for a second. So, how would people that don't have an agent that's not looking for a home because they know they don't have a down payment, how would they know about it? You know what I mean? How would they even apply for it? So, say for example, it's somebody, like, I don't know, I don't want to keep using Beatrice's name, but somebody that's just working every day, going to school, paying their rent, and are not looking for a home because they already know they don't have, 10% or 20% to put down on it. So they don't have an agent. How would they hear about it? Are there commercials? Are there billboards? Is there any other way to get this information out as soon as it comes out? Like, for example, I would recommend, coming here and putting that information out as soon as it's available, and you have all your contact information. Then you could get people that don't know about it, that don't have the money, to put down on it, say, oh, there's a program. We make a good salary, but we just don't have 10 grand to put down.
right.
So those are the people I try to reach all the time.
Well,
They're left in the shadows, and
Yeah.
they can't take advantage of this. And so the people, that know about these, like the agents, are helping their prospects get loans, and it's not getting to other folks.
right, well, there are preferred banks that participate in the Chaffer program. So these banks will also get the word out because they're actually participants in the program.
How? Because I haven't heard of it. How do they? I don't want to put you on the spot or anything like that, but how do they get the word out? Are there commercials? Are there, because I'm in insurance,
Okay.
so I see Medicare commercials all day. I have to put them on mute. I can't even listen to another one. So they're advertising on TV. They're calling people on the phone. I'm sitting at somebody's table and they're getting calls from Medicare agents trying to solicit their business. So I'm just trying to figure out, how is this information getting to some of the people?
Well, I know some of the banks,
that it
one in
should?
particular that had a workshop.
Okay.
They have home buyer workshop. These are people obviously looking to buy a home.
Okay.
And they'll have workshops and they'll have lenders, they'll have Chaffer on there. And they'll talk about the time loan program. As a matter of fact, back in the summertime, they had a workshop up in Hartford. And they had Chaffer up there to talk about the time to own program when it was still active. Unfortunately, right now, they're still waiting for funding because they have to vote on it, and they haven't voted on it. But they're hoping by the summertime, they'll have funding to restart the program.
Awesome. So I'm going to invite you back on this show
Yes.
as soon as you find out, so you can let everybody know about it.
Exactly, that sounds good to me.
Because this is a David Goodman Reality and Truth show, and David Goodman was the city sheriff, and he started this platform to have the community informed about certain things. And I'd like to just bring different perspectives and give them the information so that they could have a fair shot, just like everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, information is power.
It's the key. It's the key.
There's no doubt about it.
Oh my God. Yes.
And unfortunately, the word did not spread out
Of
to
course.
everyone.
Yep.
Even though the money went extremely quickly.
Fast, because
Some
the people that
know
knew about it told all their family and their
Exactly.
friends, and that's just not fair. You got to get it out into the community, and so much should be allocated for each town. It shouldn't, like one town like Glastonbury should not be able to like suck it all up. They should have that, a certain amount for
Right.
each town.
Yeah, they have-
or
They have
groups.
restrictions. They have qualifications. They have geographical restrictions as far as,
Okay.
who would be eligible for the program.
So no rich people, only poor people.
We'll
Or
see.
I won't say poor people, people in poor areas. Because believe it or not, even like in New Haven, like I do insurance, so I sit down with 10 or 15 families every single week. And like there are some areas that I would go to in New Haven, like, oh boy, you make sure my door is locked because it's not so good.
Yeah.
Or somebody's begging for money or something like that. And then you turn down the street to the house that you need to go to, and it's still not so good. But once you get into that house, it could be a 2 or 3 family house. These folks have been living there 40 years. They bought this house 40 years ago. All their family lived there when that area in New Haven was just flourishing. It was just great. And, you know, so I call them diamonds in the rough. There are a bunch of people like that around that just need that kind of information. Or those areas, I should say, not that particular family, because, you know, they're pretty well off. They bought their house 40 years ago, paid for, and things like that. So, but, you know, I like to get the information out in the community because I grew up on the east side of Bridgeport, a really poor area, Father Panic Village, where we had no information. We were in the shadows all the time. So I'm passionate about information. I do a radio show. You know, I do free church seminars on insurance and everything all over the place. But anyway, this is not about me. We have about 2 minutes left. So number one, I want to invite you back. So as soon as you find out about this, I'll clear a space. Even if I have to do 2 shows on one day.
Okay.
Because we do one at 12 and then do another one at 1. Clear space so we can get that information out on YouTube and out to everybody. And I'm sure, you know, we could probably get Deborah to help us. She knows everybody.
She knows everyone.
Forever.
And then some.
So we have about, 90 seconds left. I want to leave the last 90 seconds to you. What would you like to share with our audience?
Well, first I want to thank you, Vita, for inviting me. But what I want to share is, as I said earlier, is that knowledge is power. Owning a home is so important. When I work with buyers, I'm not only working for them for the present as far as finding a home, but it's also their future. It's the future where their kids are going to go to school. It's the future of the new neighbors, the new neighborhood they're going to live in. And that's how I grew up. I grew up in a home. And so the fact that I grew up in a home, I wanted to buy a home. So you're setting not just wealth generation, but also you're setting just the importance of what it's like to actually own a home and then pass that on to the next generation and the next generation after that.
It's pride,
It's definitely pride.
It's just pride.
And it's power, because now you become a taxpayer. And those public officials will listen to you more.
Yeah. If we all get together, we're
If we
powerful
all
in
get
numbers.
together.
Because they don't listen to me, but I'm about to come down on them. So anyway, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, and you're invited back whenever you have some news to share with us. This is the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show, and we're on your side.